You've gotta be kidding. I just hit my weekly limit. Nobody's showing you this. I drew it like in paint and it just designed itself. What? All in one project. Let me show you. Hi, I'm Nika and welcome to TechNika. Today's video is a deep walkthrough of Claude Design, Anthropic's new design tool used the way I'd actually use it on a Monday morning in a real operations role. We are going to set up a brand system from scratch, build a quarterly operations review with 5 connected deliverables, push the tool to its edges, hit a real limit, recover, and hand the work off to Claude Code for an interactive prototype. No hype, real artifacts, real workflow. Let's go! Anthropic just dropped Claude Design. And if you work in operations, data, or any role where you build decks and process docs every quarter, this changes the math on how long that work takes. In this video, I will walk you through the whole tool, not as a designer, but as someone who builds operations review packages every 90 days. By the end, you will have a real workflow you can deploy tomorrow's morning. First thing to know, as of right now, Claude Design is browser only. There is no desktop app, no mobile app. You access it through Claude.ai on your computer, in Chrome or any modern browser. That will likely change over time, but for today, this is where you live. Claude Design accessible to anyone on Claude Pro, Max, Team or Enterprise. If you're on the free tier, this isn't available yet. When you open Claude Design, here is what you see. On the left, you got your project types. These are starting points for what you want to build. You've got prototype, that's for interactive UI mockups, app screens, web pages, anything clickable. Slide deck for presentation, pitch decks, executive reviews. From template, pre-built starting points if you don't want to begin from a blank prompt. And there are a few other formats for one-pages, dashboards, marketing assets, things that don't fit neatly into deck or prototype. For today's, we will mostly use the slide deck and prototype types because the operations review package we are building has both narrative content and an interactive workflow piece. But the workflow I'm about to show you applies to anything you build here. Now, when you first open Claude Design, you will see this prompt asking you to stop your design system. And before we click anything, let's talk about what it actually means, because this is the single thing most people skip and then regret. A design system is the visual rulebook for your brand. It's your colors, primary, accents, neutrals. It's your typography, what fonts you use for headlines versus body text. It's your component patterns, how your buttons look, how your cards are styled, how much white space you use. Big companies pay design teams 6 figures to maintain these. Small companies usually have one in someone's head scattered across its Slack channel. In Claude Design, the design system is what makes the difference between outputs that looks like your brand versus outputs that looks like generic AI design. Every project you create after this will automatically inherit whatever system you set up here. You can absolutely skip this step, but if you skip it, the slides and prototypes you generate will look fine. They just won't look like you. They will look like default AI design. So, for any work you actually plan to ship, to your team, to leadership, to public, invest 10 minutes upfront to set this up. It pays back every project after. One thing I want to flag clearly before we go further, and I will repeat this throughout the series. Only upload corporate or sensitive information to Claude Design if you are 100% sure you have the legal right to do so. That means your company has a corporate license, your legal or IT team has approved AI tools, and the specific data you're about to upload falls within this approval. In this video and in every video in this series, I'm working with my own personal brand assets, training data or open source data. Nothing here is confidential. If you are experimenting on your own personal project, go wild, explore, be creative, try everything. But if you work in corporate operations, the rule is simple. Don't leak the data, even if the tool is great, even if your manager would be impressed. Get the approval first. Now, for this video, I'm going to make a deliberate choice that I want to explain because it might come up in the comments. My YouTube channel, TechNika, has its own brand kit. Sign accents, choral CTAs, all the visual language of creator brand. I could use it here and the setup would be fast. But the deliverable we are building is a quarterly operations review for a fictional 12,000 person enterprise leadership team. That's a different visual job than a YouTube channel. Seeing accents and choral CTAs would look wrong in that boardroom. They would undercut the credibility of the work. So, I'm going to set up a system from scratch instead for a fictional company called Meridian Operations Group. 2 reasons. 1. The output is going to look genuinely enterprise grade, which is what your audience actually expects. 2. Most of you don't have a brand kit sitting in a GitHub repo. You have brand guidelines logged in your company's intranet somewhere, or in a Slack message, or in your head. So, I'm going to show you a path that's actually transferable to your situation. Okay, let's actually set this up. I will click Create Design System and Claude takes me to the screen. Tell us about your company and attach any design resources you have. You have 2 real paths here, depending on where you're starting from. Path 1. Pure from scratch. Fill in your company name, write the descriptions of your brand, audience, add tone notes in the description field. The richer your brief, the more specific the output. Path 2. Bring assets. Upload Figma files, brand PDFs, PowerPoint decks, Word documents, HTML brand kits, or Markdown files. You can also link a GitHub repository. Claude reads components and styles directly from your code. Or use web capture tool to pull elements from a live site you own. For Meridian, I'm doing a hybrid. A written brief plus Markdown spec file in a GitHub repo. The brief tells Claude who Meridian is. The Markdown spec tells Claude exactly which token to use. Together, they give Claude enough context to scaffold a system that doesn't drift toward generic AI design. Here is the GitHub repo. It contains a single Markdown file, design.md, that defines Meridian's full visual system, color tokens with hex codes and usage rules, typography scale with weights and tracking, spacing system, component patterns for cards, button, tables, charts, magic cards, layout patterns for slides and documents, and a section of tone rules for the generated content. And in the company description, I'm pasting a short blurb that gives Claude tone context the spec file can't. That blurb tells Claude how Meridian should feel. The spec file tells Claude exactly what token to use. Now I hit submit and Claude is going to read the repo, parse the spec and build the system. Claude now reading the repo, extracting tokens and building the system. It pulls the color palette first, then typography, then spacing and component patterns. For a structured Markdown spec like this one, it usually takes anywhere from 30 seconds to a couple of minutes. And there it is! Kercolon Slate as a primary text, Steel as a single accent, Amber and Rust reverse for variance flags, IBM Plex Sans for headlines and body, IBM Plex Mono for numbers, hairline borders, 4-pixel radiant, no gradient anywhere, sample magic cards, a data table, and process flow. This is what Meridian looks like. It's restrained, it's executive grade, and it's appropriate for the audience we are building for. That's the whole point of the design systems tab. Get this right once, and every project you build after this inherits the right visual language automatically. And before we move on, I always recommend creating a quick test project right after setup, just to validate the system feels right. We will do that as a part of the real projects in the next section. Once you're happy with the output, you toggle Published on, and from that moment forward, every project you create automatically inherits these systems. No re-uploading, no reconfiguring. Okay, Meridian's design system is live. Now let's actually use it. In the next part, I will walk you through building a real quarterly operations review package, 5 connected deliverables, 1 project, all on brand. Let's go. In part 1, we set up Meridian's design system from scratch. Restrained, executive grade, ready to go. The system was published and I'm happy with how it came out. Now we are going to use it. In this part, I will walk you through creating a real project, a quarterly operations review, and the most important habit I want you to build with this tool, giving Claude all the data it needs upfront, so you are not feeding it numbers in pieces. My design system is published, so anything I create now automatically inherits Meridian's tokens. I click New Project and select Slide Deck as a starting type. Even though we are going to build more than just slides, this is the most flexible starting point for multi-artifact package. I'm naming this project something explicit and specific: Q2 2026 Operations Review Contract Approval Cycle Time. Project naming matters more than people think. You will create a lot of these over time. Future you needs to find this project 6 months from now. Give it the name it deserves. Before I write a single prompt, one quick setup tweak. I'm going to enable speaker notes so that every slide Claude generates includes presenter notes underneath the visible context. This is the kind of detail most people skip and then wish they hadn't. 2 reasons to do this upfront. 1. When you eventually present this deck live, the notes are already there. You're not writing them at midnight the night before. 2. Even if you never present the deck yourself, these notes capture Claude's reasoning for each slide. Why this magic leads? Why this comparison comes second? Toggle it on now, it's free, it's automatic, and you will thank yourself. Now I'm in the project workspace. 2-pane layout, chat on the left where I talk to Claude, and canvas on the right where the design lives. This is where everything we built for the Q2 review will exist. The workflow diagram, the executive deck, the team one-pager, the email draft, the LinkedIn post, all in one project, all sharing context. This is a critical token efficiency point. We could create 5 separate projects for the 5 deliverables, but that means refeeding Claude the data and the brand context 5 times. One project means one context, used 5 ways. Cost goes way down, consistency goes way up. My first message to Claude is not asking for a deliverable, it's setting the context. Here what I'm typing. I'm the operations director for Meridian, a 12,000 person enterprise. Every quarter I produce an operations review package for leadership. This quarter's focus is a contract approval workflow we redesigned in procurement and operations. It cut approval time across our pilot business units in Q2. I want to build 5 deliverables in the single project so they stay visually consistent and sharing data. 1. A process workflow diagram showing the old versus new contract approval flow. 2. A 10-slide executive pitch deck summarizing the quarter. 3. A 1-page team-facing summary for the around 40 people involved in procurement and operations. 4. A draft announcement email for the broader ops department, around 200 people. 5. LinkedIn post draft for external thought leadership. Before we start confirm, will all 5 artifacts automatically use my organization's Meridian design system, and should I give you the data upfront or feed it as we go? 3 things this prompt does. 1. It gives Claude my role and the company context. 2. It tells Claude all 5 deliverables upfront so it can plan ahead and reuse content. 3. It asks Claude 2 clarifying questions which forces Claude to explicitly state its assumptions before generating anything. And here is where it gets interesting. Claude came back with a structured set of scoping questions before generating anything. Let me fill this out on camera because there is a teaching moment hidden in how questions are framed. Audience for the deck. COO and functional VPs. That's the level Meridian's voice was built for. Deck length. Leaving the slider at 15 minutes, the default. That's the realistic slot for a quarterly ops review. Speaker notes. Full script. Not brief talking points. I already toggled speaker notes on at the project level, but this question is about how detailed the notes should be. Full script lets me strip text over the slides themselves and lean visuals. Slide title style, action titles. No Q2 results by cycle time fell 74.5% across pilot BUs. Tells the conclusion in the title. The slide just supports it. LinkedIn voice, first person as operation director, and what can post share publicly, percentages and quantitative outcomes only. No dollar figures, no business unit names, no contract counts. The 74.5 reduction is the public headline. Everything else stays internal. Now, notice what Claude is doing here. It's not just collecting answers. Every question it asked is shaped by the design system rules I set up. The slide title style question references Meridian's tone rules. The LinkedIn shareable questions references the privacy discipline I want. The speaker notes question respects the toggle I set at the project level. This is what system as a memory looks like in practice. Claude is enforcing the rules I wrote without me restarting them. Tweak controls of the deck. Yes, all three: accent colors, title style, density. I will show you those controls in actions later. And the open text questions are the ones that give Claude what it can't compute from the data files you may attach alone. The headline phrasing I want. What changed structurally? What didn't work? Named owner, the Q3 plan. I'm pasting in the answers I prepared. The two that matter most. A real what didn't work paragraph. Meridian's voice rules require an honest retrospective. Here is what Claude built. One landing page that ties into entire Q2 operations review package together. 5 deliverables, one shared narrative spine, all in Meridian's design system. Notice the structure. Title at the top, package label above it, brand attribution on the right. This is the executive-grade pattern Meridian was built for. 5 deliverables, numbered, each one with a one-line description, the audience it's for, and a direct link to open it. Executive deck for the COO and VPs, process workflow diagram for all audiences, team one-pager for the 40 people in procurement and operations, department email for the 200-person ops org, LinkedIn post, first person, external, percentages only. And here is the move I didn't ask for, the shared narrative spine. For magic cards with the locked numbers. This is what I mean by one project, one context, 5 artifacts. Claude isn't just building each deliverable in isolation, it's building a package. Every figure and every artifact will pull from the same spine. Change a number here and Claude will offer to update it everywhere. Workflow diagram is also done. Both files are in the project sidebar. Time to open the deck. Looking at all 5 artifacts together, the visual language is reading sharper than I want. Let me adjust the system itself, then we will continue the walkthrough and you will see the changes apply automatically. And there it is, but the change is subtle by design. You will see it most where Meridian uses cards. Index page deliverable cards now lift on hover. Workflow diagram div cards at the bottom have a softer radii and barely perceptible shadow. The one-pager hero matrix strip. Deck slides 7, 8 and 9. Pilot table retrospective cards Q3 timeline. The title slides and section openers identical. They don't use cards and they shouldn't change. The whole point was to soften the supporting layout without touching the hero moments. And because Claude updated the system tokens, not the individual artifacts, every project I create after this inherits the software version automatically. That's the difference between a design tool and a design system. So, 10 slides, action titles throughout, full speaker notes underneath every one. Let me walk you through what Claude built, not slide by slide, but stopping on the 4 slides that show the most about how Meridian's design system actually behaves in production. Slide 1. Title and headline matrix in one. Operations review Q2 2026 contract approval cycle time file across pilot business units. Notice the structure. The teal section marker at the top. That's Meridian's recurrent visual rhythm element. Above the title, a small eyebrow label. Then the title itself in IBM Plex sans bold action title style. Below it, the supporting subtitle. Bottom left corner, the Meridian Operations Group attribution with the same teal marker reinforcing the brand. This is what executive-grade restraint look like. No hero image, no background gradient, no icon clutter, just typography, hierarchy, and one accent color used twice. If a viewer glances at this slide for a half second, they already know the result. Slide 2 is where Claude made a design decision I want to specifically highlight, because most AI tools wouldn't make this choice. The magic reveal. 15.7 days crossed out, past tense de-emphasized in a graphite stroke. 4.0 days dominating the right side at a probably 4850 pixel type. Below that, an inverted triangle in green. 11.7 days, 74.5% reduction. Most AI-generated decks would put 15.7 and 4.0 in equal size type because the prompt says show before and after. Claude didn't. It made an editorial calls. The past is past, so let it look like the past. Strike it through, drop the contrast. The present dominates. That's not just data visualization. That's narrative design. And on the left, full sentence title paired with a subtitle that quietly does enormous work. Average time from intake to executed signature measures across operations North America, EMEA and APAC. The result held within plus or minus 0.4 days across all three geographies. That sentence preempts most common skeptic question. Did this work everywhere or just in one business unit? It's answered before anyone asks. And the source attribution at the bottom names the dashboards and the date the data was pulled. This is what I mean by Meridian's tone rules being enforced, not just configured. Well, skipping past slides 3 through 6, the section divider and the 3 structural changes, those slides do the analytical decomposition work. Important, but follow the same pattern. I want to land on slide 7. This is the creditability slide, pilot performance held across all 3 operations geographies. The slide is a regional pilot table, North America, EMEA, APAC, with the cycle time results broken out per region. Look at the design treatment. Hairline borders between rows, no zebra striping, numeric columns right aligned in IBM Plex Mono, so the digits line up vertically. That alignment isn't decorative. When a CFO scans this table, they want to compare 4.1 in NA against 4.0 and EMEA against 3.9 in APAC vertically in 3 seconds. The monofont makes that comparison trivial. Notice what's on this slide. No bar chart, no regional flags, no color-coded performance spills. Meridian voice rules, said data tables and charts dominate, no hero imaginary. This is exactly the rule, enforced. Well, slide 8, the retrospective. And this is the slide that earns the entire deck. The technical build took 6 weeks. Trust building took 10. That's an action title that's not a victory lap. It's a confession with a lesson inside it, which is exactly what Meridian's voice rules required. At least one what we do different moment in any retrospective. Quantified, specific, and ending with the lesson going forward. Most decks blur this. Move it to slide 20. Hide it in appendix. Meridian puts it on the main flow, slide 8 of 10, between the regional results and forward plan. That positioning is itself a design decision. The honesty is a part of creditability. Well, slide 9, Q3 forward plan. Slide 10, closing asks 3 specific things the leadership needs to do for this to work in Q3. Not a thank you slide, not a generic question slide, 3 named asks with the COO as the recipient. That's the deck, 10 slides, 4 anchors, 1 consistent voice from open to close. And remember, every one of those slides has a full conversational script underneath it. Let me show you slide 8's notes because the honesty beats the one that benefits most from our written narrative. This isn't a list of bullets, it's the actual sentences I'd say if I were presenting this to the COO live. The hesitation about the false positive rates, the framing that change management took longer than the technical work. The pivot into the Q3 lessons. 6 months from now, when I'm refreshing this deck for a different quarter, these notes are how I remember why slide 8 lands on the way it does. And now, let me show you the tweaks panel. One more refinement pattern before we look at tweaks. Sometimes you don't need to ask Claude to change something. You can just edit it directly. Edit mode. Now I can click into any text on the slide and rewrite it in line. Let me make a small change to the source attribution. Right now it reads source internal operations dashboard Q2 2026 contract data. I want to add the actual date the data was pulled. That level of specificity is something a CFO will check for. And it's done. No prompt, no regeneration, no context cost. The change is just in the file. This matters more than it sounds. When you're polishing a deck the night before a presentation, you don't want to round trip every typo through a chat conversation. You want to click, type, save. Claude Design lets you do that, and the styling stays consistent because the edit happens inside the design system. I can't accidentally pick the wrong font or break the spacing. The system holds. Same pattern works for speaker's notes. Click in the sentence in the notes panel, rewrite it, done. 3 levels of refinement available. Chat for big changes, edit mode for searchable changes, speaker notes for narrative tweaks. Use whichever the moment calls for. And then there is the first level, tweaks. Let me show you that now. Fine, tweaks. The first refinement level and the one that's genuinely unusual. 3 controls, accent, color, title style, density, and here is what's distinctive. These aren't generic Figma controls Claude pulled from a standard library. Claude built these for this specific deck, scoped to the design decisions that actually matter for this artifact. Most AI design tools gives you a fixed control panel. Claude Design generates the controls. If we'd built a marketing landing page instead of quarterly view deck, the tweaks panel would have 2 different controls. Maybe brand voice intensity, hero image style, CTA prominence. The controls match the artifact. So, accent color first, 5 options, and watch this. Every one of them is a color from Meridian's sanctioned palette. Teal is the default. Rust, amber, and forest are the variance colors Meridian reserves for warnings, attention, and positive callouts. Claude won't let me drag this into hot pink. The system is enforcing itself. Let me try forest, watch the deck. Section markers shifted, the variance peels and slide to shift, the teal peel on the AI risk flagging slide shifted. Every accent across all 10 slides updated at once. And see this little peel in the corner of the panel? That's the live preview of which accent is currently applied. Useful when you've got the deck zoomed out and can see the changes from across the canvas. Now the title style. Right now, the deck is set to action titles. Cycle time for 74.5% across pilot BUs. If I switch these to short topic titles, Claude rewrites every title in the deck, from a full sentence that tells the conclusion down to a 2 or 3 words topic label. Watch slide 1. Cycle time fell 74.5% became Q2 results. The headline matrix on slide 2 stays because that's the visual content, but the eyebrow label and the title shortened. The supporting content on each slide gets more prominent because the title is doing less work. For Meridian's audience, action titles are the right call, but the toggle lets me test the alternative without regenerating anything. Sometimes I will send a topic-titled version to a colleague for review because they read faster when titles aren't carrying the conclusion. Back to action titles and density, the one I want to push hardest. Right now, we are at standard density. Generous white space, single-purpose slides. Let me switch it to compact. Watch the deck reformat. Tighter spacing. The pilot table on slide 7 gains room for additional context. The retrospective compresses into one dense layout. The Q3 plan picks an extra detailed tier. This is the version I would send to CEO if her schedule got compressed and she only had 10 minutes to read the deck before the meeting. Same brand, same voice, same data, just more per page. Back to standard. 4 refinement levels. Chat for major direction changes. Edit mode for searchable fixes. Speaker notes for narrative tweaks, and tweaks for system-level adjustments scoped to the artifact you're working on. Use whichever the moment calls for. That's the deck. Let me show you the team-facing one-pager. Here is team-facing one-pager. 40 people in procurement and operations who live through this project. Same data we just saw in the executive deck, but watch what changes when the audience changes. The header tells you immediately who this is for. Team summary, procurement, operations. Below the title, the attribution from the Director of Operations, distribute internally, 14th of July 2026. Notice the framing, distribute internally. That's the design system enforcing audience scope. The same one-pager could leak externally if I forwarded it to the wrong list, so the document tells me and tells anyone who opens it exactly where it should go. Now look at the magic strip. Same 4 numbers from the executive deck. 15.7 down to 4.0. 204 pilot contracts, rework rate down to 5.9%. 1.2 million analyzed impact. But the visual logic is different from the slide 2 of the deck. Remember slide 2? The deck killed the 15.7 by crossing it out. It made 4.0 dominate. That was a narrative choice for an executive who needed the conclusion in half a second. The one-pager doesn't do that. Both numbers are equal weight, side by side, with a small arrow between them. Why? Because the team reading this document was in the project. They already know the story, they don't need the dramatic reveal, they need the 4 anchor metrics laid out as a reference. Something they could scan, screenshot, pass into Slack, point into a meeting. Same data, different visual logics. That's audience-aware design. The left column is the analytical spine. 3 change cards, parallel review, AI risk per screen, consolidated sign-off, each with a brief description and a median impact line at the bottom. This is the same content as deck slides 3 through 6, but the format is different. The deck gave each change its own slide. 3 slides, 3 full beats, 3 section dividers. The one-pager compresses 3 changes into 3 cards in one column. Faster to read, more referenceable, same information density per change, just denser packaging. Now the right column. Who shipped this? Note the small italicized line below the table. Names are placeholders confirmed before distribution. That's Claude protecting me from accidentally publishing fake names to a real team. The disclaimer is automatic. And below the names, the recognition callout. This is the element that wouldn't appear on the executive deck. This was a 6-month effort across 5 functions and 3 time zones. It explicitly thanks the people reading the document. The COO doesn't need this, the 40 people in procurement and operations do. That's why the one-pager has it and the deck doesn't. Looking at this one-pager again, there is something missing for this audience. The team reading lived through the project. They don't need persuasion, but they are going to share it in Slack, screenshot it for their own teams, point to it in their next stand-up. Visual scale better than tables for that kind of asynchronous use. Let me add 2 charts. Now, one production note before I paste this prompt. I didn't write it code in Claude Design. I drafted it first in a regular Claude conversation, refined it through a couple of rounds, and only then brought it over here. That matters for 2 reasons. First, it optimizes my token usage in Claude Design. Every prompt I send here costs Opus tokens. Drafting prompts elsewhere keeps my design conversation focused on generation, not on iteration over the wording of the request itself. Cheaper, faster, cleaner. Second, it lets me be deliberately explicit about exactly what I'm asking for. 2 charts, named data source, specific chart types, a constraint that the one-pager can become a dashboard. VAC prompts produce VAC outputs. A 2-paragraph prompt drafted carefully beats a 5-word prompt typed in a hurry every time. So, passing the prompt, submitting. Claude is now reading the granular CSV, computing the regional breakdown and rendering both charts in the Meridian system. Watch the canvas. And there they are. One small layout snack. The regional chart was overlapping the metric strip text. I dropped an inline comment right on the canvas, asked Claude to nudge the spacing, and it's cleared in one round. Chart 1. Regional pilot performance. 3 horizontal bars, North America, EMEA, APAC, with a reference line at the 4-day pilot average. The variance is tiny, plus or minus 0.4 days, exactly as the deck claimed. The team can now point to this and say the result didn't depend on which region you were in. Chart 2, the distribution view. Q1 baseline on top, Q2 pilot below. This isn't just showing the average moved, it's showing the spread tightened. Fewer outliers, less variance, the kind of detail an analyst on the team will appreciate, but an executive doesn't need. Notice what stayed the same. The recognition callout is still in the position, Both stumble blocks are still in place. Claude added the chart without disrupting the existing structure, because I asked it to explicitly not to. That's the don't make these dashboards constraint doing real work. Same brand, 2 more visuals, audience everywhere throughout. Now let me show you the announcement email. Here is the announcement email. Watch what changes when the audience scales up and the format changes from document to message. First thing you see, the amber draft banner. Review and edit before sending. Names below are placeholders. This is the design system protecting me from a mistake. If I try to forward this email straight to the ops department list without reading it, the banner would catch my eye. The documents literally cannot be confused with a sent email. Below the banner, the metadata block, from to CC subject. The body of the email compresses what the DAG and one-pager spread across multiple pages. What we changed, 3 bullets, each with the change name in a bold and one-sentence explanation. And what didn't go to plan, some retrospective story we saw on slide 8 of the DAG and on the bottom of the one-pager. But here is a single paragraph, not a section, not a call-out block. It's part of the narrative flow of the email. This is audience awareness in action. The 200 people reading this don't need to study the retrospective. They need to encounter it briefly so they trust the announcement. And this is the section the deck didn't have, the one-pager didn't have, and the email needs. What's coming for you, BU in Q3? This is what makes the email more than a recap. It tells every reader something specific that's about to happen to them. This is the section that determines where the email gets read all the way throughout the skimmed and closed. The deck speaks at leadership. The one-pager speaks at the project team. The email speaks at each individual recipient about their own work. Notice the closing sentence inside that block. This result is yours. 4 words. They say thank you to the pilot teams, not thank you for reading my email. The recognition is for the people who shipped the work, not the people receiving the announcement. This is the email. Same data, same brand, same 6 placeholder names, completely different rhythm, audience aware throughout. Last artifact, the LinkedIn post, externals through leadership in first-person voice. Same project, same 6 people, same data, but the rules are stricter than anywhere else, because this leaves the building. 2 design elements at the top, before you even see the post body, and both are doing trust work. Draft banner first. Same pattern as the email. LinkedIn post in your voice as operations director, first-person percentages and qualitative outcomes only. It's a privacy spec illustrated as a banner, so I can't accidentally publish without seeing it. And then this, the sharing guardrails callout. This is the element I have not seen in any other AI design tool, and I want to flag it specifically. 3 lines included: percentages, qualitative outcomes, lessons learned. Then excluded: dollar impact, absolute contract counts, specific BU names, contract dollar volumes, individual names, and tone, first person, retrospective, candid about what didn't work. Stop and look at the excluded row. Claude is naming the specific values it deliberately did not put in the post. The 1.2 figure exists in the project, the 204 contract count exists in the project, Sarachen's name and the name of every BU exists in the project. Claude knows all of them, and it's documenting that it left them out. This is privacy enforcement made legible. Most AI tools either show you everything or refuse to do anything. Claude Design is doing the third thing, generating exactly what you asked for, and then telling you what it withheld and why. If a colleague asks me later, did you make sure you didn't leak the dollar figure? I can show you this callout. The discipline is documented. And now the post itself. Notice the rendering. Claude isn't just giving me a text block. It's a preview of what the post will look like on LinkedIn. Avatar in the top left, my name and role, the now timestamp, the public globe icon, all the LinkedIn UI elements that affect how the post is read. And before we move on, one more move on LinkedIn post. And a real world detour I want to walk you through, because it's the kind of thing that happens in actual production work. I asked Claude one thing. Create supporting picture or carousel in brand style to attach to the LinkedIn post. That's it. Not detailed spec because Claude already has the post content, the design system and the privacy guardrails. It has everything it needs to build a brand coherent carousel without me re-explaining. This is a pattern I want you to internalize. When the project context is rich enough, your prompts can get shorter, not longer. WAG prompts produce WAG outputs only when context is missing. When context is loaded, WAG prompts work fine. And here is a real moment. Mid-generation, I hit Claude Design's usage limit on this account. The carousel was almost done, but I was capped. Most tutorials would either edit this out or pretend it didn't happen. I want you to see how the recovery actually works, because if you use Claude Design seriously, this will happen to you, especially during a long session like this one. Step 1. I downloaded the entire project as a zip. Every artifact, every design system token, every chart, the LinkedIn post, the index page, all of it. Step 2. I opened Claude Design under a different subscription. Drop the files from the archive into the chat. Ask Claude to restore the project. Step 3. Done. Fully restored. Same 5 deliverables, same meridian system, same data, same charts, plus, and this is what me made happy, the carousel that was mid-generation when I hit the limit had been preserved in the export. It came back as a 6th artifact on the index page. LinkedIn carousel. 2 takeaways from that detour. 1. Claude Design's export is a real backup. Don't assume your work disappears if something goes wrong with your account. 2. Keep an eye on your usage meter on long sessions. If you're going to hit a cap, hit it before the work that matters most. I learned that one on the hard way. Now the carousel itself, 6 slides. The first one is the hook, the last one is the close. But I want to show you slide 2 specifically because of how I build it. This slide has a custom process scheme. Boxes, arrows, a kind of diagram I'd usually mock up in a notebook before bringing it to a design tool. I had a clear idea in my head, but it was going to take a couple of paragraphs to describe in words, so I used the draw button instead. Click draw. A sketch canvas opens. I drew a rough version of the diagram, boxes, labels, arrows showing the flow. Not pretty, like paint, but Claude doesn't need pretty. And here is what came back. My rough sketch rendered in the meridian system. Same shapes, same flow, same logic, but now in IBM Plex, hairline borders, charcoal text, steel accents. The sketch told Claude what the design system handled how. This is the move that's hard to do in any other tool I know of. Figma wants you to describe the layout precisely. Canva wants you to start from a template. Claude Design lets you start from whatever's faster, a sentence, an upload, a sketch. Sometimes drawing it badly is faster than explaining it well. And one last thing on this slide. After Claude rendered the sketch, the text and the shape were overlapping slightly, readable but ugly. Inline comment, text and shape are overlapping, give the text more breathing room above the box. Fixed in seconds. No prompt to the chat, no regeneration, no context cost. Same pattern we used earlier on the deck. Point at what's wrong, name the fix, move on. 6 artifacts now in the project. 5 if planned, plus the carousel that emerged from a 6-word prompt. Same brand, same privacy discipline, same narrative spine. Now extended into the visual format LinkedIn rewards most. Now let me show you what happens when we take this even further. Same workflow diagram we built way back at the start, handed off to the Claude Code, turned into a working interactive prototype my team can actually click. Let's go! Now let me show you what happens when we take all of this further. Same workflow diagram we built way back at the start of the project. Static, print ready, fine for all slide deck, but what if my team needs to actually interact with it? What if hovering each step shows the owner and the time? What if I can click a toggle to focus any on the legacy lane or only on the pilot lane? What if this becomes a tool the team uses, not just a picture they look at? That's where Claude Code comes in. Different products, same Anthropic ecosystem, designed specifically for this kind of handoff. So, first step, I export the entire project from Claude Design as a zip. every artifact, every CSS file, the design token, the workflow diagram HTML, all of it. Quick check before going further. Open the folder, verify the files are there. I'm specifically looking for workflow diagram HTML, that's our handoff target, and shared Meridian CSS, the style sheet with all the design tokens. Both here, good. This is something a lot of people don't realize about Claude Design. Your project isn't locked inside the tool. It's real, exportable, portable HTML and CSS package. You can hand it to a developer, hand it to a different design tool, or hand it to Claude Code, which is what we are doing. Now, I switched to Claude Code. Different product, different interface, but it's still Claude, and it can read the project I just exported. I'm pasting in a prompt I prepared in advance. Same discipline as before, I drafted this in a regular Claude conversation, first to optimize it, then brought it over. The prompt asks Claude Code to do 4 things. 1. Read the existing workflow diagram and the design tokens without rewriting them. The Meridian system stays intact. And 2. Create a new file, workflow interactive HTML, leaving the original attached as a static reference. 3. Add 3 interactive behaviors: hover tooltips, a legacy pilot toggle, and clickable detail panels. 4. Start a local dev service so I can open the prototype in my browser. Submit. And here is something genuinely cool. Claude Code shows me exactly what it's doing. Every file it reads, every comment it runs, read 2 files, run 3 comments, click the line, and I can see the actual operations. Claude Code reads the existing HTML, reads the shared CSV file to understand my design tokens, generates the new interactive HTML, starts a local dev server. Quick prompt. Claude Code asks if it should run the dev server command. Hello, I'm working in a folder I trust, this is my own project, the source is clean. That permission step matters. Claude Code is genuinely careful about this. It won't run shell commands without asking, even when the obvious next step is to run a server. You can disable the prompts on long sessions if you trust the workflow, but I'd leave them on for anything new. The discipline is worth the friction. So, server running, localhost URL ready. Let me open it. And here is it. Same workflow diagram from Claude Design, but interactive. First thing I noticed, Claude Code added a legend that wasn't in the original, and the lane focus toggle. Click pilot, the legacy lane dims out, the pilot lane stands prominent. Click legacy, the opposite. This is the kind of interaction a viewer can get from a static diagram. They can focus. Hover any step. I get step name, the owner, the average days, plus the structural meaning. And the 4 metric cards at the bottom, they are also new. Steps reduced from 8 to 5. Sequential review time from 6.3 days to 1.8 days. Each one with the absolute reduction and the percentage. This is the kind of summary an executive would want at the bottom of an interactive document, without having to recompute it themselves. This is more than static version had. Claude Code didn't just make it interactive. It made it better by adding the legend and the metric cards an interactive document needs. And one last bit I want to show you, because it's the moment that distinguishes Claude Code from a code generator. After the prototype loaded, I noticed something. The legacy and pilot lane labels looked weird when one was active, compressed, faded, hard to read. So I sent Claude Code a 1-line message. Legacy and pilot lane names looks weird, analyze and fix. And here is what Claude Code did. It didn't just patch the symptom. It reads the existing CSS, identified 2 specific problems, and explains them to me in plain English. Then it diagnosed the second issue, and it fixed both, keeping it readable. And this is the move. Claude Code wasn't just generating code, it was reasoning about code. It read its own work, found a real visual bug, and explained the fix the way a senior engineer would explain it to a junior. That's a differentiator. And this is what other tools stop short of. Figma stops at the static design. Canva stops at the polished image. Gamma stops at the slide deck. Claude Design plus Claude Code keeps going from idea to design to working interactive code. And the same workflow diagram I started this video with, static, 6 hours of designing work, is now an interactive prototype my team can actually use. Same data, same design system, same brand, now clickable. One last section before we wrap. Let me walk you through the limitations, the governance, and their Monday morning checklist. And recap, we started with no design system, no project, no artifacts. We built Meridian from scratch as a markdown spec in a GitHub repo. We loaded data, generated 5 deliverables, 6 with the carousel, softened the visual language, added charts, fixed overlaps, switched account mid-session, sketched a slide concept, and handed off to Claude Code for an interactive prototype. All of that in one project. Now let me show you the parts I haven't shown you yet. The governance layer, the honest limitations, and what to do tomorrow's morning. So, sharing first. Exports we've already used, zip for the Claude Code handoff, but Claude Design also exports to PDF, PPTX for the deck, HTML, and direct sends to Canva. And small but useful multi-design system support. If your company has sub-brands, multiple product lines, or separate visual identity for client-facing versus internal work, you can maintain more than one design system and pick the right one per project. We didn't use it today. Worth knowing, it exists. Now the part of the video most reviewers skip, what didn't work, what's not great, and what you should know before you bet your Monday on this tool. 1. Claude Design is in research preview. That means features change. The tweaks panel in your version might have different controls than mine. The export menu may move. I hit at least 2 minor bugs during this shoot. Inline comments occasionally don't register and you have to pass them into the chat instead. None of these were fatal, but they're real. Plan for friction the first time you use it on a serious project. 2. Usage limits matter. I hit my max weekly cap mid-shoot. I had to switch account to keep going. If you're on Pro, you'll hit caps faster. If you're on Team Enterprise, you'll get more headroom, but the cap is still real. Plan your sessions, draft prompts in cheaper Claude context first, like I showed earlier. Don't burn tokens iterating over wording in the expensive context. 3, and this is the most important one, Claude Design is not a Figma replacement, it's not a Canva replacement. Designers who care about pixel-perfect control will still want their existing tool for the last mile. What Claude Design does, and what no other tool does as well, it's the first 80%. Broad coherent first draft, multi-artifact packages, audience-aware variants with the design system enforcing itself the whole way. For most operations professionals, the first 80% is the work. You don't need pixel perfect, you need credible, consistent, defensible. That's what Claude Design delivers. So, Monday morning, here's what I would actually do. 1. Pick a recurrent deliverable. Quarterly review, monthly ops update, project kickoff one-pager, anything you build more than twice a year. That's your test case. 2. Set up your design system once, from scratch with a written brief, or upload your brand kit, or point at a GitHub repo if you have one. 10 minutes upfront. Pace back every project after. 3. Load your data upfront, not in pieces, not as you go, all of it with a magic summary file separate from the granular data like we did with Meridian. The cleaner your data structure, the cleaner your output. And 4. Let Claude generate the package. Then iterate with the 4 refinement levels. Chat for big direction changes. Edit mode for surgical fixes. Speaker notes for narrative tweaks. Tweaks for system level shifts. Use the right tool for the right scope. And 5. This one the most people skip. When something is ready to be more than just a static document, hand it off to Claude Code. The interactive version is almost always within reach, and the workflow diagram demo I showed you takes about 15 minutes end to end. That's Claude Design. Real implementation, real artifacts, real limitations. For operations professionals who build packages like this every quarter. If you build a quarterly review using this workflow, drop a comment with what worked and what didn't. If specific feature didn't translate cleanly to your environment, tell me. That's the kind of feedback that drives the next video. And if you're new here, TechNika is where I cover practical AI for enterprise operations. No hype, just things you can deploy tomorrow morning. Subscribe if that's the channel you want in your feed. That's it, and see you next week. Bye.